increase our renewable energy source production. The current government under National Hydrogen Mobility Mission is significantly adoption for electric vehicles in two-wheelers and three-wheelers is much faster because it is just an electric motor driven by a battery source.
Isn't Hyderabad metro a failed attempt?
मैम भोपाल में भी सेम प्रॉब्लम है, वहां पर भी मेट्रो बना दी है लेकिन वहां पर ना तो कोई यूज है और नॉर्मल गाड़ियों से भी धीरे चलती है.
In Bangalore, there is one place called Miller's Road. About 12 years ago, plastic was melted, mixed with bitumen and tar and sand, and the street was laid. It was a beautiful place, and it was a beautiful road, smooth, and it lasted more than 6 years.
जो प्लास्टिक रिसाइकलिंग फैक्ट्रीज है जो कि प्लास्टिक रिसाइकल करती हैं, देन उसके बाद में क्रेडिट्स ट्रेड करती हैं जो कंपनीज अपना कार्बन एमिशन टारगेट्स को अचीव नहीं कर पाती.
Well, yes, if we have to talk about clean fuels, hydrogen is yet another powerful solution for as a clean fuel. And the current government under National Hydrogen Mobility Mission is significantly doing research. Right now, the entire trucking industry is moving towards deploying telematics. For example, delivery has totally changed the way logistics is functioning in India. They have real time tracking right from the time the driver leaves Delhi and on his route to Hyderabad. There are designated points where he has to stop, where he has to rest, and those points are all tracked on the map. So his efficiency is tracked, and as and when the truck is approaching, say a driver has to step down and another driver has to take in, there is an app that will tell you that the truck is approaching closer, and it will alert the next driver to get ready. So the truck is not even turned off, the engine is not even turned off, the engine is turned on, and when the this driver gets down, the other driver gets on and continues the journey towards Hyderabad. And that's how they are promising extremely high turnaround times and delivering whatever goods at record time. And there are also sensors, radars, and all the stuff that will tell you which system is performing how. And hence, predictive maintenance for the fleet is also becoming very easy. And route optimization, each of us experienced this. And GPS also uses route optimization. It will tell you which is the best route to take, where are roadblocks, which way to maneuver, etc. And there are also video telematics, and there is a kind of driver coaching also. And driver coaching, whenever there is accelerated rash driving or sudden braking, acceleration, all of a sudden it will keep indicating that you have to slow down, this is the speed that you have to maintain. And it will also give you some alarms, and it will help you prevent accidents. And there is a fantastic report system which is a real-time report system that is being tracked. And the future of mobility ecosystems is autonomous vehicle controls are being experimented, and in few parts they're being deployed. And mobility as a service, which we call as MaaS. So mobility as a service, as I mentioned earlier, is one integrated platform where you can just plan your entire travel, okay, including the last mile delivery. Or if you're traveling, for example, I reiterate the same example of reaching your office by taking a metro. you have to reach the metro on a bike, and you use the metro and again use another means of transport to reach your office, and all this can be integrated on one particular platform. So in future, for the next future generation, mobility is no more about possessing or having ownership of a particular vehicle, but there will be an integrated mass service which will be utilized. And well, yes, these are the pillars of smart and sustainable mobility. So we discussed electrification, where right now the electrification of two-wheelers and three-wheelers is faster as compared to the other mobility solutions. And we discussed clean fuels, digital optimization, which means it will smart mobility is all about giving you the exact route plan. It will give you it will maximize the efficiency of your fuel, and and it will reduce your empty miles. There will most probably be no empty trips for large fleet operators. And yes, well, experts say that electrification and increasing use of electric vehicles will lead to a lot of electric waste, e-waste in terms of batteries. So right now, there is an increasing use of lithium ion batteries. So battery recyclers are also increasing, as there are a lot of entrepreneurship opportunities, and in terms of government push also, we are increasingly seeing shift towards battery recycling. We are no more discard. We are not supposed to discard batteries carelessly. Rather, we need to hand over these batteries to responsible recyclers, because batteries are full of lithium, cobalt, nickel, and all these are accelerating the pace of mining at which we are just cutting down the forests and doing mining. This is being accelerated, and clearing forests for mining is not a sustainable way to live, because electronic waste has a lot of rare earth materials, and you can mine a lot of materials that will in turn again go into battery recycling. So the cradle to grave concept is gone, and now is the time for circular economy. It has already come. Many companies like Atero Recycling is doing fantastic job in battery recycling. They are extracting a lot of important raw material that can again go back into battery recycling. Well, there is a lot of apprehension on child labor practices when it comes to mining. Okay, especially cobalt mining. It is said that a lot of child labor is being deployed. So it's also said that e-waste possesses a lot of rare earth materials that can go into smart mobility solutions, and the world is not even harnessing 1% of rare earth material needs through urban mining. So if we can really focus on recycling, turning to electric vehicles is not a bad option at all. So all that we need to do is make some conscious choices in not just purchasing and using, but also in disposing. And vehicle life cycle management, right? So at the end of the life, a vehicle needs to be given back for recycling, so that whatever is useful can be put back to use, and whatever is no longer useful can be teared down, and all the material can be brought back to recycling. Well, yes. So what is the government of India doing? I must say, Government of India has, since about the last 7 to 8 years, a lot of focus and impetus has been brought on electric vehicle adoption. For example, the National Electric Mobility Scheme itself is an example, and the advancement of FAME, becoming FAME 2 as a scheme, has driven a lot of support in terms of demand creation for vehicles in the country. There is Pradhan Mantri E-Bus Seva scheme, which aims to deploy 50,000 electric buses nationwide, and out of which 20,000 are already deployed. and India has registered a whopping 5.6 million electric vehicles with 2 and 3 wheelers leading the transition. And Niti Aayog has also launched campaigns called the Shunya campaign, where it's not just the financial incentives that the government is giving, not just the infrastructure support that the government is giving, but also encouraging the consumers to shift to zero emission vehicles, okay, ZEVs as we call them. So Shunya campaign is a fantastic successful movement that is engaging communities, that is creating awareness uh, in letting the people know about sustainable mobility solutions. And eFast India campaign is another campaign that is being run with the manufacturers, and it brings in various stakeholders and trying to promote mobility, smart mobility solutions. Well, if I have to give an example,
Delhi Metro, one of the biggest success stories of India. The journey started in 2002 under the leadership of the Metro Man of India, E. Sridharan. Inaugurated by then Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee, first train started on the 8.4-kilometer long corridor between Shardra and Tis Hazari stations on the Red Line. 2 decades later, the rapid transit system spans nearly 393 kilometers, encompassing 288 stations across 12 corridors in the Delhi National Capital Region. An additional 65 kilometers of new lines are under construction, which will take the network length beyond 400 kilometers. The Delhi Metro facilitates over 7 million passenger journeys each day, making it one of the largest mass transit systems globally. Talking about the impact, the metro has helped to reduce the number of cars on the road, which has resulted in less traffic congestion and shorter travel times. It has also contributed to reduce the amount of air pollution in the city, as it runs on electricity, which is a clean energy source. It has also had a positive impact on the city's economy, creating jobs both during its construction and operation. Not only this, it has helped to increase the value of real estate in the areas around the metro stations. A marvel in the field of transportation, the state-of-the-art infrastructure project that has not only benefited the city of Delhi but also set an example for other cities in India and around the world. Having made a success of a mass transit project in a sprawling and populous city, Delhi Metro is well placed to guide others, and it has made it the global presence too. DMRC's first overseas advisory contract came in 2012 when it was awarded the management consulting services for the first phase of the Jakarta Mass Rapid Transit System in Indonesia, covering 15.7 kilometers. Heading north along the Mediterranean coast, the Delhi Metro is also involved in the Tel Aviv Metro project in Israel. In addition, 3 more metro networks, Alexandria in Egypt, Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam, and Mauritius are also on its radar. Closer to its home base, the Delhi Metro Rail is contributing its expertise to the Dhaka Metro project, serving as a general consultant for 3 lines in collaboration with Nippon Koi and Mott MacDonald companies. Truly a game changer for public transport in the country. Abhishek Mahajan's report, DD India.
yes, you've seen the Delhi Metro Rail. One very interesting thing that has come up is that in Noida, Kirana stores have started, working as charging stations. Okay, so it is a very interesting example of how, if there is a will, there is a way. Okay, so it is not just a beautiful entrepreneurial concept to introduce electric charging stations at Kirana stores, but it has also supported the last mile electrification, and it reduces the need for having a large infrastructure. So definitely, even the grids have to be upgraded to support mass electrification like that. So while we reach there, these transition steps are an example that every city in the country can emulate. Again, Delhi Transport Corporation has over 4,000 plus electric buses in Delhi. Okay, and there is a major impact on urban air reduction, urban air pollution, and there's also the ridership has drastically increased. Okay, and it is the high, though upfront costs are higher, there is a lot of financing schemes and support from the government, and there are a lot of subsidies from the government that is helping the major transport corporations of the states to look at electrifying the fleet. Again, e-rickshaws and e-autos. So as I kept mentioning during my talk, three-wheeler transition is extremely easy and doable in a country like ours. Okay, the last mile transportation is extremely important, and that last mile transportation, if it becomes clean and green, nothing like it. And there are a few policy delays, but yes, EV revolution is happening, and e-rickshaws and e-autos are the biggest game changers. Even in Gurgaon, the surge in e-autos and e-cabs has made transportation very easy, accessible, and much cleaner. So the shift will happen. EVs right now are dominated by two-wheeler and three-wheeler buses first, and gradually the fleet decarbonization will happen in the logistics sector as well. Certain corporates have, are offering mobility solutions where they can charge their vehicles, and they have made the grids in such a way that excess energy from the vehicle can even go back to the grid from the way, not just energy being drawn from the grid to the vehicle, but it can also go back. That is the kind of concepts on which research institutions in India are working towards. And so electric vehicle and renewable energy integration is extremely important. Right now, our majority of our electricity generation is from fossil. Okay, so uh, coal is being used largely to produce energy. So we cannot say that simply by adopting to electric vehicles we are turning to cleaner transport solutions. We are decarbonizing it. No, without having clean power, unless and until your energy source come from renewable sources like solar or wind or hydro or anything like that, until then it is not complete decarbonization. Yes, there is reduced tailpipe emissions, at least the air pollution will come down, but it is not equal to decarbonization, because we are only shifting the source of emission. Okay, probably at the tailpipe, while the vehicle is running, the emissions are zero. Right from the well to tank emissions are still there. So it's important that we increase our renewable energy source production. And all of us know about the International Solar Alliance that India entered into alliance with France, and we are doing very well in terms of setting up non-fossil energy capacities in the country. Well, future trend is mobility as a service, not just at places like London or New York City or your Amsterdams and Shenzhen, but also in Hyderabad and in a country like India. Mobility as a service will replace ownership. Okay, it is no more, probably we will reach an age, certain studies have been done with policy simulators, and around 2050, 2060, India will reach a stage where possessing a vehicle is not considered, a viable option. Rather, having an integrated service that can connect you to the metro, bus, cab, and bike. That is the future that we are headed to. Yes, it is in a very, very early and nascent stage, but that is how the future looks like. And as I said, there is a lot of, if you see on the screen on the right side of the picture, you see e-bikes and e-cycles, and this is all providing hyper local mobility. Already in cities like Bengaluru, there are some places where you can just swipe your card, take the bike, and park it in the next biking station, reach your destination, and if you deliver it in less than 30 minutes, you don't even need to pay anything. It's absolutely free of cost. So at micro level, at small minuscule levels, these concepts are being tested, and they are showing very good results. And there, if a policy comes into place, and if we have dedicated lanes for all this kind of hyper local mobility, we will definitely see a lot of green future. Because right now we don't have an option but to shift towards such green solutions. And cities like Singapore, where this concept is called transit oriented development. That means around the, for example, in Hyderabad, along the metro rail corridor, if you develop pockets, okay, like how in Singapore, the urban planning is in such a way that you work, you live, and you commute closer, okay. And in metro corridors in India also, we're seeing this kind of shift, so that in future, in smart cities, the need to travel, not just cutting down emissions, but the need to travel itself will come down. Future cities will reduce the need to travel and not just emissions from travel. Well, so how can this smart mobility transition happen? It can happen by integrating three pillars. One is government, the other is industry, and the third is at individual level. So Indian government has already taken a leap in terms of defining our net zero goals, in terms of by through Mission Life and through Panchamrit goals. We have already given, Indian government is very clear in terms of its net zero goal. And through National Electric Mobility Mission, we are also, government is also incentivizing EV adoption. And we have policies and we have clean mobility programs, and Niti Aayog is driving India's EV roadmap very, very enthusiastically. And infrastructure creation is also in place. So for example, if you look at the Bengaluru Chennai corridor, that corridor has charging stations in every 100 kilometers, and there are even apps now where you can plan your travel looking at the availability of charging stations. You don't need to stop specifically for your charging station, but you can go while you're long distance travel. You can plan your break in such a way where you also have the charging station and where you can also take a break. So such kind of infrastructure has already been created. It is in the pipeline, and more such connected corridors are being built. And there's a lot of financial incentives and subsidies that are being given by the government, as the PM E-Drive mission, or the fast mobility scheme. And there are a lot of production linked incentive schemes that are coming up, not just for production of vehicles or consumption of vehicles, but also the related allied infrastructure. Even for charging infrastructure, there are schemes in place that are encouraging the entrepreneurs to set up charging stations. And Maharashtra government has to an extent announced that if you register your EV vehicle in Maharashtra, you will get a discount of 15% on your invoice, especially for the large fleet operators. Well, role of industry. Definitely, industry plays a extremely important role in building future vehicles. From building electric vehicles to hydrogen fuels, players like Tata Motors and Toyota have built in beautiful clean energy solutions, clean mobility solutions. And right now, it is said that hybrid car has a lesser carbon footprint, okay, than pure EV, because we are still dependent, the battery electrics are still dependent on fossil driven energy source. And there's a lot of innovation that's coming into picture. As I said, mobility as a service, and there are a lot of leasing models, and Uber is one of the biggest examples of kind of integrating smart mobility into our system already. And battery recycling and e-waste management, with extreme impetus being given on renewable energy sources. Your your conscious consumption and disposal is extremely important. India has introduced battery waste management rules, and India has also introduced long back the extended producer responsibility concept, which says producers are responsible for recycling and managing the end of life equipment. So, right from batteries to vehicles, all of this is already in place. We have everything, we have all the infrastructure in place right now, and industry is building on it. And we are on a very, very promising pathway to a smart mobility. Well, yes, what can people like you and me do? Um, I strongly and firmly believe that individual actions collectively can create a ripple change in anything. And if common man, if individuals can demand, government will make policies. Okay, so you ask, you get what you ask, right? So if we can become conscious, not just not just buying an own EV car and patting yourself on the back that yes, I have opted for a clean solution. Not just that, but you have to kind of make a conscious mobility choice. Do you want to use your own car versus metro or a carpool, or you just want to walk down? If you just have to go to a nearby grocery store, we don't need to pull out a two wheeler for that. Okay, we can just walk down. And short trips can save a lot on emissions. Okay, and that is the biggest opportunity. And imagine each one of us taking one decision of not driving a two wheeler for a short trip multiplied by millions of people. Imagine the impact, imagine the massive emission reduction. Okay, so right now, not just the main roads, but also the by lanes and all the roads leading to the residential colonies are also full of vehicles. Vehicular emissions are everywhere. The air quality is as bad as in a residential colony, as much as on the main road, because the last mile and the short trips are also increasing. And because the roads are all jammed on the main roads, our GPS gives us a very smart way of navigating through the colonies and going. So it's up to us to make a conscious decision in order to control emissions at our level. And we individuals collectively can create a ripple effect, right? So consumers have a huge influence, and demand for electric vehicles can go up, demand for green energy solutions can go up, and individuals can make a very big difference, right? So if there are like about 70 individuals in this talk, we can multiply this message, at least say 70 individuals telling two friends about this talk. Okay, or three friends about this talk. Imagine the impact that we can spread. So getting aware is the first step, but that is not enough. Acting on it and also spreading messages, spreading positivity, spreading conscious behavioral choices is also extremely important. And I often see that, and I myself experience that when you take a green choice, or when you kind of shift to an eco-friendly choice, because it is as of now, right now, not widely accepted thing. You might face criticism, or anything might happen, but you can stand steadfast in your commitment, and you can set the trend in the industry. Okay, you just don't need to follow, you can create your own trend, you can stand by your viewpoint, and you can spread awareness. And individual actions matter a lot more than we can actually think about. Okay, so here I rest my talk, and thank you so much for a patient listening.